So I was just scrolling through my Facebook newsfeed and I came across this video from a guy called Kinobody, and he's got a lot of interesting points, a lot of which I agree with. There's a few kind of weird ones in there, and the style and the way he portrays it is a little bit weird, but it was quite funny when I then looked down at the comments. I mean, if we look at this comment here from John Joe, if you sleep for 6 to 8 hours, you'll be already fasting during this time, and after waking, you should have breakfast because it causes you to raise your blood sugar. Having coffee on an empty stomach hurts your stomach. What we got? Fasting is bad for your metabolism. Where are we? Every bodybuilder knows you need protein throughout the day. And the reason that this has inspired me to record a video is if you spend 5 minutes trawling through the internet and trawling through looking for different dieting strategies, within those 5 minutes you will find yourself absolutely mind-fucked with the amount of information out there, the amount of different approaches, and with so many different people saying the science says this, the science says this is the best approach, this is the best approach. And it's so confusing, and it's not surprising that the majority of us don't make progress, because we either don't do anything at all because we've just got so much information we don't know what to believe, or we do one program, jump to a different program, jump to a different program, jump to a different program, and we just find ourselves like magpies jumping between stuff which is shiny. And that's the reason we don't make any progress, because we're not actually consistent with anything. And it doesn't really matter what approach you follow as long as you're consistent with it. Sure, there are goods or pros and cons to every approach you follow. You know, with some approaches you may find yourself you're doing more harm than good mentally. But when it comes to any kind of diet, every one of them works. The reason that I tend to suggest the approach that I do, i.e. flexible dieting, is I always take it from this question. Let's say, in an ideal world, you live in a world where you don't have to diet. You live in a world where your body naturally remains how it is, you naturally maintain health, etc. And let's say you did that. How would you eat? How would you go about your life? Well, the answer that pretty much everybody gives me is I'd eat whatever I wanted, and I would just generally move doing things that I enjoy doing. There's the optimal diet, and that's why I take that approach. The best possible solution I've found going forwards, the most sustainable solution I've found going forwards, comes from do what you want, do what you enjoy. You know, if you can't see yourself cutting out certain foods 6 months down the line, or 5 years, 10 years down the line, then why are you cutting them out now? Because eventually they're going to have to come back into your diet, and then suddenly, you know, it's a bit like signing yourself off work with stress. Yes, in some cases it can be helpful, but eventually you're going to have to go back to work and you're going to have to deal with that stress. So yes, of course, sign yourself off if you need a little bit of time to kind of get your head around it and to compartmentalize and calculate things. But at the end of the day, the stress is still there. You're going to have to deal with it eventually. So you're just delaying the inevitable. And it's the same thing with nutrition, with exercise. Don't delay the inevitable. Don't remove things from your diet which are inevitably going to be in it. Focus on finding an approach which is the closest to what you would optimally like to do, the closest to what your default looks like. When none of us follow diets, we just eat what we want. When none of us follow exercise regimes, we just move how we want. And we find enjoyment in things like walking, we find enjoyment in things like lifting weights, etc. So find an approach which is very close to that. Don't send yourself off right over there doing a completely extreme and different approach to only have to come back over here eventually. Not to mention, the bigger the extremes of your approach, the more it's going to impact the people around you. You're going to find yourself short-tempered, your family's going to suffer, you're not going to be as good or as optimally or straightforward or straight-minded thinking as you would be as if you took things a little bit more lifestyle-based. If you don't want cravings, if you don't want to worry about what you're consuming, then find an approach which is very close to what you're doing already. You know, there are very few parameters you really need to worry about with regards health and with regards controlling your weight. Maintain a calorie deficit and choose good quality foods the majority of the time. But allow room for the shit, because that's good for your head. And make sure you don't cut anything out from your diet. Don't demonize foods. It really is this simple, folks. And I know I'm well aware that I'm just another person on the internet telling you a different approach to go down. But I promise you guys, choose the most sustainable approach. Choose the easiest route, and health and your calorie deficit, as long as you are adhering to certain parameters within that, gentle, sustainable, lifestyle-based parameters, you can continue to go about your life, continue to go about your days, not worrying about, am I sticking to my diet or am I not sticking to my diet? Okay? Make life easy on you. Don't spend too much time Googling, because you'll soon find yourself down a rabbit hole where you're believing all sorts. Don't focus on the fad approach. Just literally focus on adhering to a calorie deficit to lose weight and make good food choices to look after your health. It really is that simple.